most definitely benefited from separation of church and state. And if you would ask, those radical Christians that, right now who want to sometimes stereotype the religion of Islam, they wouldn't want the government to say, okay, all of a sudden, all of your children are going to be forced to study Islam and you all have to become Muslim.
Right.
So, we don't need it in the schools. I don't want somebody forcing me to believe in a certain way.
Right.
And if people actually thought about it, they don't either. Another thing is, I always hear the President of the United States, who is, Chief in Staff, the state, say, God bless America, every time he ends a speech.
Yeah, well, that's political, I'm sure, more than anything else.
Yeah, well, he unfortunately kind of has to pander to that group as well.
Well, I'm not really in any group, and I'm still free thinking.
Yeah.
So your Freethought Forum is good, but
well, that's great. May I recommend, if you're not aware of it, there are nice books out there to read. Dan Barker, who is president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, has a book about his loss of faith. That's a great read.
In faith.
Yep, that's the title. If you have an interest in historical documents, it's nice to read Thomas Paine's Age of Reason. Thomas Paine could rightly be thought of one of our founding fathers, and I think it was George Washington who said that without Thomas Paine's pamphleting to rally the public to the cause, there wouldn't be
the darkest hours of the Revolutionary War.
There wouldn't be. And then a more recent author is Robert Ingersoll. His Mistakes of Moses is marvelously good to read.
Robert Green Ingersoll.
Well,
these are all available free on the internet, by the way.
That's true. You can read them free, and they're available in many bookstores where you can hold them in your hand. Well, Darla, why don't we invite you to call back in the future, and let's clear the line and let some other callers come in and tell us how the wall of separation has helped them.
We only have one line.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful show.
All right.
Darla.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well,
we were talking about North Korea and Kim Jong-il.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Like I say, the religion, the dogma doesn't have to be religion-based to bring on a state of near slavery. Hitler and Stalin and Kim Jong-il.
Larry, let me interrupt you and ask you, define dogma, because I think that's a worthwhile word to get.
Unquestioning obedience to authority, and that's authoritarianism. Dogma basically is the precepts that a dictator will put out that you cannot question, and most preachers will give you that type of dogma as well from their book. You can't hear from God. If you hear, you can talk to God, but if he talks to you, you need to see a psychiatrist. So to interpret his word, it comes from your preacher, and therefore he speaks to you with the power of God. So he's basically, what he tells you, you cannot question, and that's what dogma is. And in these cases, Stalin, Kim Jong-il, whatever they say goes, you cannot question it. That's why I call it dogma.
All right, that's great. I can't help but comment on some of the podcasts I've listened to, both on the internet, off of the internet, both from Freethought Radio and maybe some YouTubes, where people would talk about their experience as young freethinkers, and they would ask their parents, they'd ask a priest or a preacher when they were hearing about how God created the world in Genesis, and ask, well, who created God? And instead of being given an explanation, being given a slap. I've heard that story more than once.
There's a phrase that I like to use on a lot of my documentation for the Atheist Society of Knoxville, is there, science has questions that may never be answered, but religion has answers that may never be questioned. We recommend that you question your religious leader, question your beliefs, and bring them to the light of reason. Your reason is the one thing that sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom. And I'm sure if there was a God, that he certainly wouldn't want you to forego that intelligence.
So the power of reason. Right. Yes, indeed. I believe we have another caller coming in here. and I'm hoping that we'll get to hear some more nice stories about that. I guess we might also like to hear from people where the separation or the wall of separation has failed them. Could it have been in school? Could it have been, in the justice system? I've heard an interesting story. I think this was on the Infidel Guide, that less than 0.1% of America's prison population is self-identified atheist or agnostic. So either that means that we're a whole lot better than those people, or perhaps that they're coerced into choosing a religion once you're incarcerated and subject to the unquestioning power of the state. Just imagine if the state had power over your religion all the time.
Well, one of the highlighted examples of this is the military these days. When you're in the military, you're under strict law that you have to do, you have to follow the commands of those above you. And some of the people are taking advantage of that to command you to go to certain religious services. And if you don't, you are punished. I experienced that myself when I was in the Navy in 68 to 72. And that wasn't nearly as bad as it is now, I understand. If I went to church on Sunday, I was fine. If I didn't, they sent me to the kitchen, out mowing yards or whatever, work details that they had until church was over.
So you would be given work that might be reasonably construed as something like a punishment.
Right.
As opposed to the people who had their morning to maybe relax and sleep in the pews.
Okay.
All right, we've got another call.
Welcome to Freethought Freethought Forum. This is Larry. May I have your name?
My name's David.
Hello, David.
Hello, David.
How's it going? I was just going. I actually had a different question, but since you're talking about government, about the Zeitgeist movies, they have a. That's kind of what led me into looking into religion more, and but they also cover aspects of the government. And what do you guys think about conspiracy theories?
I'm not
really into them like I used to be, and also this is off topic, but I've heard about the Zeitgeist refuted. I didn't know what points were refuted about the religion aspect of it. If you guys could just talk about that.
Very little of the religious part of it was refuted. Most of it stands to scrutiny. The rest of the movie, what comes to banks and government, I understand, was mostly conspiracy theory. But the way to handle any conspiracy theory, just do your own study. Get out there, read the examples of the articles that were written on it, and take it with a grain of salt, depending on who the author of the article is.
It's easy to get sucked into them sometimes.
Oh, it is. They make a compelling story a lot of times.
Yeah, I watched that movie for, I don't know, it might have been the first 20 minutes, and I found that the stories about the numerous virgin births in different cultural traditions around the world was very interesting. But when they made the assertion that I believe Horus was born on the 25th of January as well, that caught my attention. I'm kind of a buff of Egyptology, and I've never encountered that assertion anywhere except in that movie. And it struck me that perhaps they were making a case a little stronger than the historical evidence allows.
Even what we say here, we don't want you to take it on faith that what we're saying, every word of it is gospel. We want you to do your own study, be a skeptic. Find out for yourself what makes sense, what doesn't. That's what skepticism's all about, and free thought is all about.
Yes, Ingersoll, who I mentioned earlier, said, truth is a good thing. Truth, when you discover it, will fit with all other truths. A lie has to be fabricated to fit to another lie, and it will not fit with a truth. So be skeptical. I'll confess I was also skeptical about their claims. They seem to be implying, by the time I lost interest, that the World Trade Centers came down not necessarily because of the plane impacts, and their arguments of that struck me as not factual.
Right. One good place to look for this is go on YouTube and look for counter arguments. See which counter arguments make sense, much more sense than the arguments themselves.
Yeah. There's on the general subject of things on the internet that provide you information. A really great resource is called the Annotated Skeptical Bible, or perhaps it's the Skeptic's Annotated Bible. That's a lot of fun to read, and it'll make you more knowledgeable about items in the Bible that you can't understand reading on their own, because they maybe aren't they're self-contradictory, and they aren't explanatory, where there'll be a word and you don't understand what it means, but the Skeptic's Annotated Bible will help you with that.
What about things like the Freemasons? Things with the Illuminati and stuff like that, you know?
I don't buy into them.
Right.
Now, that said, George Washington was a Freemason, and he took the oath of office on a Bible that belongs to a New York Freemason society, and they've got a website about it. I've always been an atheist, but after associated with the Rationalists of East Tennessee, I've read the Bible, and I've thought I ought to collect an illustrated version as well. Frankly, I'm curious to see how they'll handle in illustrated form some of the horrible stories that are in the Bible. Well, David, can we say thank you? And perhaps we'll get one more quick call. If there's a caller waiting, call real quick and give us a question or a thought about the wall of separation between church and state.
Okay,
and Larry,
you, David.
Thanks, David. All right.
Okay, one thing I'd like to say about truth is that truth does not need to hide from investigation.
That's right.
And how many times have you heard your religious preachers are saying that they're teaching the truth? Why do they have to keep constantly saying that? Why is it's all over the website, you know, the truth of the Gospels and stuff. Why do they have to keep saying it's true? If it was true, it would be obvious. And I see nothing supernatural in the world at all, much less all of the things that they say that are common in the Bible.
Yeah, that's correct. And what's more is, you know, as I say, truth, you know, fits the other truths around it. You know, within the Bible, you can look and find things where it doesn't even agree with itself. The creation story in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, they contradict one another. Adam and Eve were created simultaneously in Genesis 1.
Who found the tomb? Who was in the party that found the tomb?
Yeah.
You know, after the resurrection, and was it even open or closed? Read that in your Bible and tell me which one was it.
Yeah, those are all great questions. All righty. Well, it sounded like we had another call coming in, but we're getting close here on time. This is the Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. And
we haven't been cleared to pick up the call.
Yeah. There are many great quotes about the separation of church and state. You know, many people are so thankful of what we have here that they still come from all the world around to experience the freedom we have here and the opportunities we have here in America. And it would be a tragedy if we let theocracy ruin that for us, and that we no longer are a beacon of freedom that our founders set us on the road to becoming.
One final thought is, think about Pat Robertson in charge of the FBI.
Wow.
Or the Army. That's what you'd get with a combination of church and state.
You want to take us out with Benjamin Franklin?
Sure. Separation of church and state is the law of the land. It protects believers, non-believers, and churches and government. Ben Franklin said, when a religion is good, I conceive it will support itself. And when it does not support itself, and God does not take care to support it, so that its professors are obliged to call for help from the civil government, 'tis a sign, I apprehend, of it being a bad one.
Well, that's right. I think Brother Franklin had it right. This has been Freethought Forum. Have a good evening.